Hey, everyone. We are back with a new video. Let's begin. Jacksongord yells at a trembling Ains to dare repeat the words that just came out of his mouth. Even though hesitating, Ains decides to pour his heart out by calling Jacksongord out on treating the citizens like the Lusklin king as they're having a hard time keeping up with the load Jacksongord is putting on them. He talks about how rebels and cults are forming again due to this insensitive behavior. This infuriates Jacksongord to the extent of exploding, who screams at Ains of not knowing anything about the Tyrant King to be comparing that to him and asks him to leave. Ains leaves his sight satisfied to have at least spoken out his thoughts. Jacksongord sounds annoyed and disappointed thinking about how weak his son is and how less of strength and aura he has. He thinks of how all of his family was executed by the tyrant when he was labeled as a traitor, and it was after their success in the battle when he came back home that he realized his son was alive. But now, instead of being happy with him, he's embarrassed about Ains not having any potential skills to even be a sword hire. He's physically weak and an emotional person, which is total opposite of what Jacksongord himself is like. Jacksongord thinks to himself that it may be because he spoiled his son too much. The Keltrin mansion has a very ordinary looking building in it that Keltrin gave to Sihan to live in. But turns out, it is still very lavish on the inside. Sihan questions of such a building existing so perfectly as if it's been ready since years. Keltrin shyly responds to this with a crazy-sounding ideology. He explains that he's not been married, so he specifically got this building made if a lady of his interest appears. This obviously sounds like Keltrin planning on kidnapping the woman he falls for and keeping her here, which is called out by Sihan as a crime. Keltrin nervously blushes and further explains that it's not for kidnapping but keeping his potential family safe, and in hiding from all of the dangers that befall him as a treacherous retainer. The three are more puzzled than amused by Keltrin's thinking, as they know he isn't in as much danger as he thinks, and it's too much detail for someone who isn't even close to getting married yet. Nevertheless, the topic of conversation changes to Xion happily exclaiming on selling the house they were previously living in on a better price, and getting more money for it. Sihan is happy that they now have enough money for a while, to which Keltrin panics, telling them they don't need to worry about money anymore, since he's happily there for Sihan's support every way possible. In a private conversation outside, Sihan thanks Alita for suggesting keeping a boundary between himself and Keltrin, as it's better to limit their relation. Alita counts it as a relief, as having a boundary and proper attitude between people makes them conscious about their position, while providing too much comfort can lead to them considering you as an equal and losing the respect and entitlement you have, especially for a personality like Keltrin's. Sihan takes her words in with focus, alongside wondering about so much of Alita's concern in this. He gets a vague answer to his confusion, resulting in an even more confusing state, but Alita turns the flow of conversation to asking if Xion and she should also start talking formally to him. Sihan, not impressed by this thought, asks her not to unless it gets absolutely necessary, since he seems to be liking the casual friendly relation with the two. Alita's also glad at this. Sihan then tells her the reason for calling her outside, being asking her if she wants to learn magic, since he thinks she has more potential in it provided her background, as she did in fact indirectly summon him. Alita is surprised at the sudden offer and isn't really sure if it's a good idea, even though she knows it'll be nice to have skills in both aura and magic. Her main concern is the fact that she can't learn magic from the people of the Four Towers due to her having the Lusklin bloodline. Sihan chuckles at this, questioning why she would need to go there when the most high-ranking Magion is right in front of her offering her. Sihan was originally a 9th floor master-ranked Magion, along with being a godly ranked sword hire. If you guys are new to the channel, I got you covered with all good content like this, so feel free to hit that subscribe button and join us on the road into greater heights. And if you guys enjoy the video, or if you guys find it interesting, let me know by dropping a like on it as well, would be seriously appreciated. Let's continue. He starts off with her briefing about the basics of magic. Magic is used in 3 different languages. The rune language contains word to only move magic. Second language is the spells that create magic, like the magic fire. And the initiating words are the third that actually cast the magic. Sihan demonstrates the 3, startling Alita, who didn't expect him to throw magic fire so casually. Sihan then says these are only the basics, as if it's not big deal, but Alita just observes him tensed about learning it all. Sihan further explains that mastering these basics is the actual time-consuming part, and once she's done with it, She'll be able to learn the rest fast. Sihan explains the complexity and extensiveness of magic. That it's impossible to learn it all no matter how smart one is, so all Magians use this secret spell book that contains a magician's wisdom and information. It's person-specific, created by every Magian when they learn magic. Alita is bewildered upon seeing it for the first time even though she's been around Magians. Sihan explains that it's kept invisible since it contains all of the knowledge a Magian possesses. He shows her the posture a Magian attains when surfing through the book, which she finds familiar. Sihan recalls how it was easy for him to take SATs on Earth due to this book, which once again leaves Alita blank because what even is SATs for her? She pries about magic not existing on Earth, which Sihan replies in positive. She further pitches in her thought that since he was able to use it there means Earth isn't rejecting magic. Sihan also gets curious since he never thought of it that way before. He gets into a thought that he was only able to acquire it since he crossed dimensions, and maybe that's why the rest of the Earthlings don't know about it. Alita answers in excitement that then there won't be any single person even close to competition with his skills and powers. This startles Sihan, who didn't know Alita had any interest knowing about the Earth. Alita then questions Sihan about his days when he went back on Earth, only to be surprised by the traumatic expressions that Sihan's face covers after hearing her. The shameful flashback of him landing back on Earth naked on a busy road hits him. Sihan recalls how everyone remembered him everywhere as the guy who was found naked on a street. His lost state of mind was taken to be a drinking problem by the police, and his troubled childhood and bad grades were used against him to call him being missing for 3 years as him running away. The policeman investigating him tried to get answers out of him but was stopped by Sihan using magic against him and getting out of the issue. Sihan left the station only to be greeted by his angry father. In their apartment, his father keeps yelling at him, questioning where he's been and not contacting him. He further mocks him for not even completing middle school and being viral as the naked guy. Sihan sighs exasperated, thinking how his father didn't even feel a tiny bit emotional on seeing his missing Sawman jump straight to insults. He realizes that he never missed his family in Terranor, and neither did his family miss him. The father further orders him to go back to Seoul, complete his high school, get into a college and study like his life depends on it. Sihan, tired of all this, just agrees to it and walks away to a still ranting father about either do all this and be a decent person or go missing again. While walking away, Sihan feels angry and humiliated at being banished after doing so much and settles on going back to get a revenge. Sihan then locked himself in his room for a year, pretending to study but actually working on his magic abilities and knowledge on Terranor to be able to get back and then easily cheat on his exams using his spell book and getting into a prestigious university. His father praised him for finally getting on track, to which he just calls him out on doing what he was asked to and that now he'll just live independently. His father mocks him on thinking it's that easy to live on your own and looking down on world. Sihan, on the other hand, actually looks down on the world due to the skills he has by the mercy of an unexpected trip to a certain world. Sihan uses his spells to get his way into earning money and earns enough in a year to live his entire life easily. But Sihan still worries about not being able to find proper directions into getting back to Terranor. He feels like he's floating into a black hole, with no directions to know where exactly would Terranor be, so even with being able to crossing dimensions, he'd not know which dimension leads him to the place he wants to go to. He starts to feel weak in his determination, thinking whether all this is worth getting back on them since at least they didn't kill him. He started feeling like he should forgive them since they didn't do something worse with him, and he felt like understanding why they'd do that to him. He lost hope in being able to get back. Compromising with reality, Sihan started living a normal life in his college. He then went to the mandatory Korean military service. That experience, funnily enough, got him rid of his nightmares about Terranor. Instead, they were replaced by nightmares about going back to the army again. Even with good enough skills to help the world, he never felt motivated about it provided his past experience. He kept living a usual life, but inside, it felt dark and dull to him. Until one random day in gym, he suddenly felt a similar energy inside of him. It baffled him to feel something so familiar until he recognized it as the magic from Terranor. He started to mindlessly run towards the traces he felt connecting to Terranor. Unaware of the reason for his own excitement, he just kept moving towards the location mark, overjoyed by the hope of being able to get back to Terranor. Sihan recalls trying everything to go back to Terranor but finding it impossible, but this location mark gave him hope and excitement in his dull life. But due to these traces, he realizes that it was foolish to think to himself that he forgave them when in reality it was only him giving up and finding a way back. He never forgave the people who took everything away from him, which is why he didn't feel any peace in living a life on Earth. Quitting college, he starts studying about dimensions and returning to Terranor again, this time adamant on not giving up and getting his revenge. Even though he knew it was a tiring time-consuming job, he kept working more and more only to finally succeed in connecting the paths between Earth and Terranor. A tired, dull-looking Sihan regains all his energy back at the successful results of his hard work, ready to snatch everything away from the people he trusted the most. Coming back out of the memories of the past 10 years, Sihan summarizes it to Alita as spending an ordinary life back on Earth with ease due to his powers. He considers it needless to brief Alita about all the bad stuff. Alita just smiles shyly to this information, confusing Sihan with her behavior. Alita sits trying to focus on her mana when Sihan asks, interested, if she feels anything, to which Alita replies about feeling it very slightly. He tells her that the most basic and first step is to feel the mana and then go on to learning the magic. He further encourages her to do her and try to reach the 3rd floor rank, as that rank magic is what helps hide the traces of dimensional summoning magic. Alita is shocked at this being only 3rd rank magic, once again surprising Sihan, who replies in positive, since he was able to do that even with being low on his powers, since it's actually erasing or adjusting the traces that require a higher rank and not hiding the traces. Alita nervously listens to Sihan. Sihan then gives her the news that he thought would be good for Alita, that she would be free from following him everywhere if she learns this skill. But instead of being happy about it, Alita panics that she can leave after this. A baffled Sihan nicely says that he can't hold her freedom and wishes her to live a quiet, peaceful life like before, but Alita has other plans. She questions whether she can stay with him and be of any help if she wishes to do so. Even though confused, Sihan nevertheless tells her that it'll be nice to have a trusted person in his support if she wills. Alita then gets into a deep thought and questions if Sihan would stay here and settle down once done with his revenge like he planned 10 years ago. But Sihan tells her he is only back for revenge and Terranor has lost the importance and affection he had for it before, so he'll just go back once he's done and has a closure. Alita questions again that doesn't he need to burn someone's heart for that, which causes Sihan to panic and respond of never doing that, and going back the same way he came. He elaborates that going back is easier for him since he belongs to Earth, so once he opens the dimensional gate, it'll naturally guide him towards Earth without need of a location mark, unlike when coming here. His face turns dark, thinking that the only problem would be not knowing exactly where he'd land, but he exclaims of already preparing a returning magic to not give another strip show to Koreans. And of course by now Alita also realizes how deep Sihan's trauma about that is. Alita then softly smiles, requesting Sihan to stay by his side and be able to go to Earth with her, since with her cursed bloodline she can only have a future in another world. She offers helping Sihan in his revenge and requests in turn to accompany Sihan to Earth. In the Jexengord's kingdom palace, Ains notices his stepmother, Queen Layla, taking a walk outside without maids and smiles at her, telling her it's dangerous. She returns it with a painful smile, explaining that her status as a queen is just being a showpiece with no worth to her position that could have her in danger. She talks about how the scenario would have been different even if she received the king's love, but she's only his wife for his political benefits, so she has no danger to worry about. Ains lies that it's true that his father has no interest in her, and then adds something jaw-dropping. He hugs her from behind, telling her it's a relief that the king has no interest in her because he does. She tells him that someone can see them together, but he is affirmative of no one being around to witness his compromising relationship with his stepmother. Ains is later walking down the halls when he tells someone to come out of their hiding with a bored expression, to reveal none other than Mr. Keltron, who has a dark smile on his face, briefing Ains of having good piece of information for him. Subscribe to watch more videos like these, turn on notifications, and leave a like and comment to help the channel out. Thank you for watching and see you on the next part.